Hey everyone, what is up? It is me, Ewan from WhatCulture Gaming, joined today by Josh Brown.
Hello, Ewan.
Joined today by Josh Brown. That makes sense in my head. I should say joined today with Josh Brown, by Josh Brown. My brain's
it's all
completely
good stuff,
frazzled.
man.
It's a Thursday. Anyway, we've got some news about Ghost of Tsushima. Josh, what is the story?
Well, essentially, Ewan, Sucker Punch, the people who made Ghost of Tsushima, is looking for a new narrative writer for a new project that they haven't called Ghost of Tsushima 2, but is pretty likely to be exactly that, because they're looking for someone by the job description with, quote, a desire to write stories set in feudal Japan, and also, quote, a knowledge of feudal Japanese history. They're also looking for people who can work under tight deadlines and essentially plan out an entire open world game's worth of stories, which, you know, essentially points towards, like I said, a new Ghost of Tsushima project. We don't know whether it'll be a full sequel or a DLC, but clearly something is on the way. And this might not be a huge surprise considering just how well the original game sold. I think it was like the fastest selling new IP from Sony, maybe even ever. So I think a sequel was inevitable, but it's really cool that they're, you know, hitting the ground running. They've just dropped the Legends DLC, which I'm still yet to try, but I've heard nothing but good things about.
That's out now.
So that's out. That came out, I think, last week. I think so. I've seen the reviews pop up for it, so I'm pretty sure it's out. It came out of nowhere.
What am I doing
It's
with my
supposed to be
life?
good,
That's
Ewan.
completely
What are you doing
just
with your
like-
life? The world's biggest Ghost of Tsushima fan hasn't even jumped into Legends yet. With your good pals, me, Scott Tilford, Ben Roy, we could have been playing this thing.
I'm just there. I've been there.
I don't know what's going on.
Trying to get the numbers up on Avengers. Trying to get the numbers up on Avengers. It's completely just passed me by.
You have been playing Avengers when you could have been playing something better for free, Ewan, and also looking forward to a potential Ghost of Tsushima 2, which I am very much looking forward to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super hyped about this news because I loved Ghost of Tsushima when it released this year. You know, that game I think is one of the most unique looking open world titles that we've had in a long time, and to come in and basically make that genre exciting to me again in the setting that they had it, I thought that was just really cool. It's such a beautiful game, and you know, I think the ending did leave it open to sequels. And again, you know, with the Legends DLC that we have now, there are all sorts of directions that Sucker Punch could go with this franchise. They could take it in a more mythological route, or they could, you know, keep the historical focus setting in mind. And the way that the game ends, obviously, you know, spoilers here, so if you haven't played it, please just go look away right now. But obviously, you know that there are one or two ways that it can go. Either, you know, Jin can kill his father and grant him his wish and, you know, have a big cry, or he can spare him and basically set him up as to be like the next villain of the sequel. So one of the things I'm more curious about is which ending is the canon ending, because I need to know. When I got to that bit, when I was reviewing the game, I literally looked at the decision thing for a very long time, and I was thinking that maybe a Sucker Punch game designer would lean into the camera and be like, you're gonna choose, you're gonna make your decision yet? I ended up killing the man because I thought that was like the more dramatic ending, and of the two endings, having seen both, I do think that is the more, you know, kind of you know, like emotionally wrought ending. And obviously, you know, in the post game, you have the whole setup where Jin is now the hero of the people, but the shogun and, you know, the feudal system are kind of basically going to have it out for him. So I'm curious to see, maybe, you know, at this point, are they going to diverge from history? Or are you going to have a situation where, you know, the shogun and the main Japanese armies kind of invade Tsushima? Or are you going to have a situation where Jin maybe goes to mainland Japan and tries to start his own revolution? That could be an interesting direction. Or, of course, they could do it in a kind of anthology series type way, focus on a completely different character in feudal Japan. Maybe do an entire game about Yuna. I don't know. There are all sorts of different different directions they could go with here. And obviously, you know, Jin is a very compelling character, but there are all sorts of things to do. Josh, what do you think?
No, totally. I mean, like, I don't to just parrot everything you just said, but yeah, I'm desperate to see how they continue that ending and how they factor in that choice, because it is such a huge choice and hugely important to Jin's development as a character, and obviously his uncle as well. And similarly to you, Ewan, I remember getting that prompt and just having to, like, put the controller down and have a little walk around my very small flat over and over again, doing laps, trying to figure out
images.
yeah, just trying to figure out what was the right thing to do. And I also killed him as well, because I thought I'd just put the man out of his misery, give him some happiness in death. And now he's deaded. But yeah, the fascinating thing is, I wonder whether this is going to be DLC or a full game, because, you know, Sucker Punch also did infamous First Light when Second Son came out, which focused on a side character, and they could theoretically do something like that again, and that would be something I'm definitely got it right the third time, open to seeing, because the side cast and the ensemble cast in Ghost of Tsushima was so strong, and to me, one of the best selling points of that game were those kind of character-driven side quests, you know what I mean? They're little story threads that you followed all the way through the game. Like, they had some of my favorite missions, had some of my most favorite character interactions, had some of the best dialogue in my opinion. So to see any of those characters kind of like get their own little standalone story, or maybe an anthology story where you pick up as a bunch of them, like, I would be here for that. But at the same time, if Sucker Punch just kind of want to say, you know what, you've got your multiplayer DLC, we're not going to do any more, we're just going to focus on the sequel, I'd totally be fine with that too, because that's what the team at Santa Monica Studios did with God of War. They said, right, we're not doing any DLC, we're going straight to the sequel, and as a result, we're getting that, presumably, if everything goes to plan, you know, next year, which is a crazy turnaround for a modern Sony first-party studios. So if Sucker Punch want to do that and get us Ghost of Tsushima 2 in like 3 years' time, 2.5 years' time, I mean, I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to turn that down, Ewan, and then I'll still get all that goodness in a couple of years.
I completely agree. In terms of gameplay changes that we could see here, I think the co-op element of Legends is a pretty exciting area that they could go down. I would totally, you know, not be averse to the idea of maybe doing a co-op campaign alongside the main single-player story. I think that would open up some interesting opportunities. You know, we're seeing a lot of games kind of, you know, from that single-player bread and butter mold. You know, like stuff like the Gotham Knights series. Obviously, that's spun off from Batman Arkham, which is very single-player focused. That's going to have a co-op element coming up. And a lot of, excuse me, I'm just phlegmy again. It's all really bad.
I love it.
A lot of these, you know, different single-player titles and franchises, they are dabbling a little bit more with those kind of things. And I would be interested to see maybe if Sucker Punch could actually integrate that in some way. Not that, you know, I'm begging for it or anything. You know, I think it's perfectly fine as it is as a single-player title. But you could definitely see, you know, when sequels come around, you've got to think of different ways to innovate. It just can't be the same thing over and over again. So that's something that I'd be interested to see. I'd also potentially like to see maybe more weapons in the game as well, because obviously, you know, Jin is no longer a samurai. You know, he is kind of like a samurai shinobi type ninja mold fusion thing at the moment. So, you know, obviously there were lots of weapons in Jin's arsenal in the first game. And the katana is a fairly iconic weapon that you can't just get rid of. Equally, I would like to see maybe some of the different weapons that our allies got to use in the game. I forget the warrior monk's name. I think it was Nori. I really liked his giant staff spear thing. And there are all sorts of different weapons that you could use. So again, you know, that's a route that they could maybe go down, and I'd be excited to maybe see.
Yeah, I would love a bit of that, because I guess the whole point of the Ghost, in the first game at least, is, you know, blending the classically samurai style with, you know, the skills of like a thief and a ninja and stuff. So to see perhaps Jin's palette for killing become even more opened up and get more training from different areas to introduce like new weapons and stuff alongside the katana. Like, I would definitely be here for that, especially because by the end of Ghost, I felt so at home wielding that sword. Like, I felt like I knew every single intricacy of it, every single move, how to best beat my foes. And I think, you know, having, even if it's just like 1 or 2 new weapons on top of that, would be a great way to kind of supplement the combat from the first game. Again, not to just keep going back to God of War, but I like how that's kind of like how they handled it. In the most recent game, you had the Leviathan axe for most of the game, but then you got it reintroduced to the Blades of Chaos like halfway through, and you kind of had these 2 pillars of combat that, you know, it wasn't the most choice in the world, but you got to do so much within each of those weapons, and each kind of like combat system felt so layered and complex that you only needed 2, but to be able to switch it up at all was really interesting and really well done for my money. And yeah, you mentioned co-op. I do think that's kind of like what we're leaning towards in the future, like regardless what happens. We're getting Horizon, next year as well, which is introducing some kind of co-op feature too. And I think as long as it doesn't take away from the story-driven experience, which evidently is not the case because they're currently looking for a narrative writer, I think you can blend in multiplayer into a system like that, whether it is kind of its own side thing and only available in side missions, or whether it is kind of threaded throughout the entire story. I'm looking forward to the future of this game, man, because like you, I really adored it. Like, I just sunk so many hours into it, like lived off it for a couple of weeks. But there were elements where the game could be improved, like in the side quests for my money and stuff. Some of it felt a little bit dated, perhaps because of how long it was in development. Like nothing that fundamentally broke the experience or anything. I still think it's like an 8 or 9 out of 10 game, like absolutely stellar. But you can almost see where, if they had a few more years to kind of polish it, the areas that they would tackle. So hopefully, they get to address those things when the next game comes around and it feels like a proper next-gen experience.
Yeah, exactly. But I want to know what you all think of this news down in the comments below. Do you think Ghost of Tsushima 2 is coming, or is this a standalone experience? And if it's either, what are you more excited for? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and head back on over to whatculture.com/gaming for more news, lists, and articles like this every single day. Remember, you can find me on Twitter @EwanRuinsThings, and you can follow Josh on Twitter
@Josh Brune with 2 R's.
And we will see you soon. Bye.
Bye.